All right, welcome back to Calhoun County's Most Wanted, and welcome back, John Garlick.
I'm glad to be back.
Down at the SRO conference last week?
The School Resource Officer Conference, the 17th Annual School Safety Conference. It's not just for school resource officers, although about half of the people there were. The other half were school administrators, principals, school safety type folks.
And anybody who could come up with an excuse to spend a little time down at the beach.
Right, it's a great conference. And it's really one of the best conferences. They have some really good speakers, and then they give you time to go enjoy the area too. So it's a really wonderful conference. And like I said, we had school counselors and school social workers there too.
You know, that it is important that we are continuing to, educators continue their education, and when we have deputies who are out there at the schools, they're not just showing up like they would to patrol the streets. They are actually trained to do a good job of protecting our kids.
Right, they are specifically trained to work in the schools. They have certain programs for the kids. They're also well tuned with school safety and what to look for. We heard from Jean-Michael Keyes, whose daughter Jessica was killed in a school shooting in Colorado after Columbine. We also heard from the principal of Columbine High School, who just retired last year after being there for his whole career. And we heard from one of the victims from the Virginia Tech shooting. She was in that classroom and got shot 3 times and came and spoke to us. And it was fascinating. We heard from some other people too, but those were the key speakers, and they were very good, lots of insight gained really for law enforcement and for school administrators.
Probably some discussion, I would imagine, about the directive about bathrooms at public schools.
No, we didn't talk at all about that, to tell you the
Sarcasm.
truth. Not even, it didn't even come up sarcastically, I don't think.
Really?
It was interesting that it didn't.
Wow.
But
I would
certainly
imagine
an
that
issue.
might put some SROs in a little bit of a complicated position.
It could, but we wouldn't want to drag that out, so, but yeah, it could be. I hope it does. Who knows where that's going to go. But,
yeah.
It's
we don't have the answers, so we'll move on to a topic
We'll move on to
address.
a topic that we can talk about.
And that is what our viewers have done this week.
They have gone out in the entire week and arrested, here comes, 7 people. There it is, 7 people, 1 a day, just like the vitamins.
And to clarify, the viewers did not do the arresting.
No, they didn't. They didn't do the arresting. Thank you. They called us, and we went and picked them up. And now we're up to 3,718 people behind bars because somebody in the county decided they'd be a good citizen, and they knew some information and felt like we needed to know too, so we could keep this place safe.
All right. Well, we will start with this week's lineup coming up in just a few minutes, and Charlotte Loftus will be joining us. We got a drug issue that some of you probably are not aware of that is affecting our community, and we need to be aware of it, so we'll find out about it coming up in just a few minutes on Calhoun County's Most Wanted.
Amazing grace.
How sweet the sound that saved
A crackhead,
drug addict,
alcoholic,
meth freak,
a wretch.
like me.
I once was.
Homeless.
Broken, sad,
Just lost.
but now I am.
Sober.
happy.
I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
Every day, shattered lives are restored thanks to the goods you donate to the Salvation Army.
I have a lot of land that I have to keep up. I'd recommend Mahindra. I've never had any trouble with mine. Like I said, I do a lot of bush hogging. I do a lot of garden tilling. The service department has been great. Every time I've ever called or needed anything done, they have done it for me.
Hey folks, come see us at Foothills Tractor. We're your one-stop shop for anything you need. Locally owned, locally operated, give you the best customer service guaranteed.
AOD Federal Credit Union. You already know their friendly staff and great loan products. So here's reason number 8 to choose AOD FCU, a new all-platinum Visa credit card. Call 1-800-637-0299 or visit AODFCU.com to start earning 1% cash back on purchases. Your good credit earns you a better rate. A new Platinum Visa card. Another reason you belong at AOD Federal Credit Union.
The Ford brand has always brought you impressive style and legendary quality, and Sonny King Ford brings you the lowest price and the largest inventory, new or pre-owned. The new 2015 F-150 gets the best gas mileage of any truck without giving up its powerful towing capacity. The iconic new 2015 Mustang, with its classic pony car looks and hunkered down stance, preserves a legacy that defines American motoring. For over 93 years, Sonny King Ford, for the best cars and best price.
Hi, I'm Katina Houston-Stroud with Family Links, and this is the Family Tip of the Week. The school year has come to an end, and this discussion is one we've had previously, and it's an ongoing topic. I commute for an hour to and from work and observe distracted driving on a daily basis. With statistics stating that there are over 6 million reported collisions and crashes on U.S. roads each year, how safe do you feel? One issue is parent-driver behavior. Parent-driver behavior is affecting teen drivers both positively and negatively. Parents of preteens are big offenders of distracted driving. 70 to 75% of new drivers drive with the same distracted driving behavior they learned from watching their parents drive. When teens were surveyed and asked, who's your biggest influence for driving, almost 75% of new drivers said that parents were their biggest influence. So you think your kids only pay attention to your driving when they're about to get their driving permit? That's wrong. From my own personal experience, I know that my 8-year-old son watches everything that I do when I'm behind the wheel, which is not always a good thing. Unfortunately, collisions and car crashes are the #1 killer of teenagers. So what are you thinking now? Do you need to change some things? And it's never too late to change the way you drive with children in your car. Remember, distracted driving, which is talking on the phone, texting while driving, answering a ringing phone, impatience and aggressively behaving behind the wheel, they're all serious hazards and our children are watching. It takes attention and skill to be a consistently safe driver. Remember, don't teach your children skills that kill. Don't drive distracted, period. And for more family tips, please contact Family Links at 256-820-5911.
And welcome to this week's edition of Calhoun County's Most Wanted. First up in our lineup this week, Dania Svela. Miss Svela, last known to be living in Ohatchee. She's wanted for probation revocation, possession of illegal prescription drugs, and promoting prison contraband. And this is Charles Still. Mr. Still, last known to be living in Piedmont. He's wanted for domestic violence, third, reckless endangerment. And meet Rodney Epperson. Mr. Epperson, last known to be living in Anniston. He's wanted for probation revocation on breaking and entering a vehicle. And take a look at Tanya Bradley. Miss Bradley, last known to be living in Piedmont. She's wanted for probation revocation on fraudulent use of a credit card. And this is Sonia Chappelle. Miss Chappelle, last known to be living in Ohatchee. She's wanted for failure to pay on escape second. And we'd like you to meet David Barksdale. Mr. Barksdale, last known to be living in Ohatchee. She's wanted for harassing communications, criminal trespass third, and imitation drug manufacture. And last up for the first half of our lineup, Colby Craighead. Mr. Craighead, last known to be living in Oxford. He's wanted for failure to appear on theft of property third. And that's it for the first half of our lineup. Stay tuned for the second half later in the show.
All right, we'll have more bad guys for you here in just a few minutes, but John, we want to welcome Charlotte Loftus onto the show now from Bradford Health Services.
Yes, welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Mm-hmm. Now, unfortunately, you're not here to tell us that the drug problem in East Alabama has completely gone away.
No, I'm afraid not. If anything, the drug problem in East Alabama is increasing daily.
And specifically, we have a drug that is not a name that is a household name like some of the others are, but it's becoming a household problem.
It certainly is.
So tell us about this.
The drug that we're very, very concerned about, we're concerned about all drugs, but the newest drug on the scene, which is making an impact on the area, is a drug called fentanyl. It is a synthetic opiate, and it is used for the treatment of pain. It's 40% more potent than morphine, and it is 50 to 100% more powerful than most of the medications that are commonly used to treat pain.
Wow. And therefore probably being abused.
is being abused in many, many forms. We have
Is,
the
is,
pharmaceutical.
is this something that that is being prescribed legally, but also being misused?
We have both. We have the pharmaceutical fentanyl, which is in many forms, like the fentanyl patches, the lozenges. This is for the people who have chronic massive pain. Those prescriptions are being abused. And we also have the illicit fentanyl on the market, which is also marketed as white heroin. And it is the street drug that we are seeing. We're seeing both forms abused, both the pharmaceutical and the illicit.
Yeah, one of the saddest things to me about this type of drug abuse is what it does to the people that actually need these drugs, the people that are in severe pain, and maybe they're not even going to be around for much longer, but to ease their suffering at the end of their life, they're prescribed this medicine. And then when somebody finds out they've got it, this person, one of the most helpless people on earth, becomes a target.
Correct. Most often we see fentanyl prescribed for our hospice patients who are very near the end of life, and the medication is stolen, and it is into the hands of others who are therefore abusing it.
John, how do we protect it? We don't want to be constantly thinking about bad things all the time, but if we have this in our house, if a loved one is using this medication, what do we need to be doing?
Well, you need to be diligent with locking it up, and if you're taking it or if you've got somebody giving it to you, they need to keep track and pay attention to when some of it's disappearing, but keeping it locked up, keeping it secure so that nobody can get to it is the best way to keep it from getting in the hands of people who shouldn't have it.
I would imagine one of the first things is don't advertise the fact that you've got it.
Right. Don't let anybody know that you've got that stuff. And certainly if it gets used and then you've got some left over after it's no longer needed, bring it down to the sheriff's office and dump it in our prescription drug take-back box, because it doesn't need to be sitting around the house.
And it doesn't need to be flushed down the toilet either.
No, please don't flush that down the toilet. It's very deadly in its purest form. It's incredibly deadly. Law enforcement officers who are confronting this on the street are warned not to touch it unless their hands are gloved, because you can get just a little bit on your finger and that's enough to stop your heart. The pure form. The
pure form. A few grains of salt, that would be a fentanyl that is equivalent to just a few grains of salt is deadly.
Wow.
In its pure form.
Mm-hmm. So what forms would this take? Is this going to be, I think you mentioned patches and...
There are prescribed patches, lozenges that go under the tongue of those that are suffering. So there are also pill forms. Now, the illegal and illicit drugs that we see in the form of fentanyl are usually it's a white powder that looks very similar to white heroin, and that's what it's actually usually sold as. And it can be deadly. It can be mixed with liquid and used as an IV.
Sold as, so you're not implying that a drug dealer would pass something off as different from what it actually is.
Yes, I'm afraid I'm implying that, of course.
And it's deadly. It's very, very deadly. Much worse than heroin in terms of its ability to kill you. And throughout the country, there's been an increase in deaths in drug users for this use of fentanyl. It's terrible.
It's becoming epidemic.
What's the prognosis for somebody who has used it and says, I don't want any more of this?
They're going to need detox. They're going to need usually long-term inpatient. By long-term, I mean at least 14 to 21 days. And if they're also having been a heroin user, then they're going to need longer treatment than that. But the medical emergency is such a crisis because so many people who abuse the fentanyl end up in a seizure that is fatal.
All right, well, we need to talk more about this. We also need to take a break right now. We'll come back and we'll have the second half of this week's lineup and more about this problem. I hope it's not an epidemic, or maybe it is already. We'll find out more about that when we come back on Calhoun County's Most Wanted.
I have a lot of land that I have to keep up. I'd recommend Mahindra. I've never had any trouble with mine. Like I said, I do a lot of bush hogging. I do a lot of garden tilling. The service department has been great. Every time I've ever called or needed anything done, they have done it for me.
Hey folks, come see us at Foothills Tractor. We're your one-stop shop for anything you need. Locally owned, locally operated, give you the best customer service guaranteed.
Your word is rigmarole.
Can you define it?
A long, complicated, and annoying process.
Can you use it in a sentence?
The last time I tried to buy a car, I just got a big load of rigmarole.
Well, you should have gone to Jacksonville Auto Sales.
Jacksonville Auto Sales across from Walmart in Jacksonville, or find us on the web at jascars.com. Remember, Jacksonville Auto Sales, home of the no rigmarole deal.
Amazing Grace.
How sweet the sound that saved
A crackhead.
Drug addict, alcoholic, meth freak,
A wretch.
like me.
I once was.
Homeless.
Broken. Sad.
Just lost.
But now I am.
Sober.
Happy.
I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
Every day, shattered lives are restored thanks to the goods you donate to the Salvation Army.
The Ford brand has always brought you impressive style and legendary quality, and Sonny King Ford brings you the lowest price and the largest inventory, new or pre-owned. The new 2015 F-150 gets the best gas mileage of any truck without giving up its powerful towing capacity. The iconic new 2015 Mustang, with its classic pony car looks and hunkered down stance, preserves a legacy that defines American motoring. For over 93 years, Sonny King Ford, for the best cars and best price.
And welcome to the second half of our lineup. First up this half, Edward Fleming. Mr. Fleming, last known to be living in Anniston. He's wanted for failure to pay on attempted child abuse. And this is Tare Swain. Mr. Swain, last known to be living in Lincoln. And he's wanted for a probation violation on theft by fraudulent leasing. And take a look at Andrew Ragland. Mr. Ragland, last known to be living in Anniston. He's wanted for theft of property third and theft of property fourth. And this is Roosevelt Morris. Mr. Morris, last known to be living in Anniston. He's wanted for failure to pay on receiving stolen property second. And please meet Jesse Bishop. Mr. Bishop, last known to be living in Anniston. He's wanted for failure to pay on theft of property third. And last up in our lineup this week, Corey Fuller. Mr. Fuller, last known to be living in Anniston. He's wanted for child support failure to appear. And that's it for our lineup this week. If you have any information on the whereabouts of these folks, please give us a call at Crime Stoppers, 256-238-1414.
More crime fighting coming up in just a few minutes. We'll have the Crime Stoppers segment of the show, and we'll also talk about our crazy criminal of the week. The police may actually be the bad guys in this one. I don't know. Depends on your interpretation.
Why
we got to play fair.
Oh my!
But Charlotte Loftus is with us from Bradford Health Services, talking about a very serious problem, and that is fentanyl. You said
Fentanyl.
Fentanyl. Okay. Fortunately, I'm not very well versed in drugs, but I hope to remain that way. But I do have kids in the house, so I need to have an understanding. What do we as parents need to make sure that we know and share with our kids today?
I think we need to continue with the education, of course, but we also need to educate ourselves to be aware of the problems in the community and some of the signs and the symptoms of drug abuse, and know how to respond and react to our children and talk to them about drugs and talk to them about how this will, affect their life and could really end a very promising future.
And that conversation doesn't begin after we start noticing signs, does it?
No, it really needs to begin way before the signs as an early part of education.
And there's so much stuff out there, not just fentanyl, but we've just had law in Alabama where we've outlawed kratom. It was being just sold in convenience stores all over the state. And you know, there's other stuff in convenience stores that's perfectly legal to buy right now that's probably not a good idea to be letting your kids, you know, pure caffeine pills and stuff like that.
That's one of the conversations to have. Just because it's legal doesn't mean it's safe.
Right. It does not. And it's killed, you know, it's caused some kids to die because they say, well, I can buy it at the convenience store. There's no age limit. It's legal to buy, so it must be safe. And they end up, you know, dying, and it's tragic. It's tragic.
All right. So what are some of the signs that we should be watching out for, not just with our kids, but other loved ones to see, okay, they may need some help?
Well, you're usually going to find a change in their daily routine. Often the children get more and more withdrawn. They isolate more, or they change their friends and want to stay out with this particular new group of friends, and you see a change in their behavior patterns. They're coming in late, they're not interested in school anymore, there is an actual change in their affect, and there's their smile and their ability to communicate with you. You know, there's physical symptoms as well as emotional symptoms. Often their appetite will decrease, will have a weight loss problem, they appear depressed. They can be, with some of the drugs that we're talking about, especially the opiates and the heroin use, they can be very agitated and more anxious and nervous. And today's world just really doesn't understand that it's no longer, you know, the street heroin user. I mean, heroin is everywhere. It's being used in so many forms. And that is something that we just need to look for. There can be track marks. We're very, very surprised to find that such young children are now participating in IV drug use. We have children as at the age of 11
oh my God,
that are using IV drugs.
That's awful.
Well, my kids hate needles. I hope they continue to.
We all do, don't we?
So, you know, a parent has to pay attention to all of those behaviors and to really know where their children are. And really, the parenting doesn't stop, not ever, but so long as you've got a child, whether they're a child or an adult child, living in your home, you as a parent need to be aware of what they're doing. And, you know, particularly teenagers, you need to know where they are all the time, and you don't need to let them just go out for a curfew. Well, you just come back by midnight. And you know, there's the old Ted Knox theorem that says if you're out past 2 o'clock in the morning, you're either dead or pregnant. And you know, parents just need to know where their kids are and make sure they're home. And yeah, kids are going to sneak out, but you need to be aware that they will, or they will try, and you need to be awake and alert when they come home so that you can check them out. Because we're not just talking about, you know, they've got a drug addiction maybe, and we can take them to rehab and everything will be all right. No matter what drug you're using, it's going to cause brain damage that's permanent. And now with these, you know, manufactured drugs like fentanyl, you may not get a second chance to intervene. So
that's scary and sobering thoughts.
Very many synthetic drugs are there, and the parents have no idea that
and I guess
children are participating.
The number one thing is just be engaged with your kids. Not, you do need to have the conversations about drugs, but just have conversations. Engage with your kids on things that they're interested in, even if you don't care at all about Pokemon.
Exactly.
You talk about it, engage, find some way to connect with the kids. I wish we could talk more, but we're out of time. But if somebody has questions, how can they contact you?
They can get in touch with the Bradford Services. Would be glad to do a consult or a crisis intervention. We also have a free family support group, an education group that meets twice a week, and they can always just call our office, and we'll be glad to tell them the times and the location, which is here on Hamrick Drive in Oxford.
All right, Charlotte. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with our Crazy Criminal of the Week and the Crime Stoppers segment of the show on Calhoun County's Most Wanted.
AOD Federal Credit Union. You already know their friendly staff and great loan products. So here's reason number 8 to choose AOD FCU, a new all-platinum Visa credit card. Call 1-800-637-0299 or visit AODFCU.com to start earning 1% cash back on purchases. Your good credit earns you a better rate. A new Platinum Visa card. Another reason you belong at AOD Federal Credit Union.
Your word is rigmarole.
Can you define it?
A long, complicated, and annoying process.
Can you use it in a sentence?
The last time I tried to buy a car, I just got a big load of rigmarole.
Well, you should have gone to Jacksonville Auto Sales.
Jacksonville Auto Sales across from Walmart in Jacksonville, or find us on the web at jascars.com. Remember, Jacksonville Auto Sales, home of the no rigmarole deal.
Amazing Grace.
How sweet the sound that saved
A crackhead.
Drug addict, alcoholic, meth freak,
A wretch.
like me.
I once was.
Homeless.
Broken. Sad.
Just lost.
But now I am.
Sober.
Happy.
I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
Every day, shattered lives are restored thanks to the goods you donate to the Salvation Army.
I have a lot of land that I have to keep up. I'd recommend Mahindra. I've never had any trouble with mine. Like I said, I do a lot of bush hogging. I do a lot of garden tilling. The service department has been great. Every time I've ever called or needed anything done, they have done it for me.
Hey folks, come see us at Foothills Tractor. We're your one-stop shop for anything you need. Locally owned, locally operated, give you the best customer service guaranteed.
And welcome to the Crime Stoppers portion of our show, where we ask you to put your deer stalkers on and help our investigators with these cases. First up, on June 2nd, an aluminum flat-bottom boat and trailer was stolen from this residence on Roy Webb Road. And sometime between June 6th and June 7th, this residence on Highway 204 was burglarized. PEX tubing was stolen from that location. And on June 11th, this residence on Cedar Springs Road was burglarized. They got away with a TV, a DVD player, and an Xbox 360. And that's it for our cases this week. If you have any information on any of these, and we hope you do, please give us a call at Crime Stoppers, 256-238-1414. Remember, we want your information and not your name.
Stupid! You're so stupid!
All right, our crazy criminal of the week this week, John, got a $175 fine for unbuckling his seatbelt while driving.
Interesting.
It's a Canadian man, and he was pulling out of a shopping center and saw someone who appeared to be a panhandler. And so he took some money, and we've got a picture here, I believe. This is what he saw. He took some money out and tossed the money towards this individual. If you notice, the sign says, "Not broke, not hungry, have a great day." He's not actually trying to get money.
Is he in Canada?
He's a police officer, and he's working together with another police officer down the road to catch people breaking the law and traffic offenses. So this driver that throws the money out, he unbuckles, throws the money out, buckles back up and drives off, gets pulled over and a $175 fine for not wearing his seatbelt because he took his seatbelt off to give money to someone.
Is that in Canada?
Yes.
Well, Canada's a really sweet country. They play hockey and drink beer, and that's all they really need to worry about. And their major crime it's true. Major crime is people running around unbuckling their seatbelt in intersections in Canada. It's a strange thing. So I'm glad they have a task force out there to catch them.
Keeping your seatbelt on is important.
It is.
Probably not going to get treated exactly the same way by the Calhoun County Sheriff's Office.
We won't do that.
Okay. All right. That's all the time that we have for this week. We thank you for joining us. We'll be looking for you again next week, but hopefully not in the lineup on Calhoun County's Most Wanted.